Hey guys, welcome back. I'm really glad you could join me again. Now, if you're watching this video today, chances are you're an alienated parent just like the rest of us. And if that's the case, I hope you'll stick around for just a little bit because I have a conversation I want to share with you that just might interest you. I want to talk to you about the family courts. More specifically, I want to talk to you about those judges. You know the ones I'm talking about, the ones that are in that courtroom sitting above us. You know, the ones that are dressed in those black robes and even staring down at us with those condescending eyes. Yeah, those are the ones I mean. Now, I know that you're going to find this hard to believe, but contrary to popular belief, and I have it on good authority, but these guys are actually human. Well, at least some of them are anyway. Now, that being said, for the good ones, I have to admit that over the course of the years, I've met some outstanding family court judges who amaze me on their rulings because before they actually got into the division they are now, where they're with the families, they actually took time to learn family law and they wanted to make sure they understood it frontwards and backwards and sideways and everything else like that because they knew what was writing on it. They knew the future of our children was dependent upon their decision. And the only way they could make proper decision is educating themselves on the law. And they applied it to every case that came across their docket. Now, the nice part about it is that these particular judges, they went above and beyond that. They actually took time to learn about, believe it or not, they learned about parental alienation because they'd heard about it and they wanted to know more about it. And they wanted to find out how this affects the children. They knew that their decisions was all too important. So they learned about parental alienation. They learned to look for the warning signs and the red flags and everything else like that. And so when a couple went into the court room, they looked at the person, each of the parents, the mother, the father. They listened to their testimony. They looked at the evidence that was placed before them. They looked even probably at their body language to see how they were reacting when they were giving testimony or when they were answering questions. Basically, they wanted to see is there any warning signs because they wanted to make sure that that child is placed with the right parent who is not going to alienate the child from the other one. They wanted to make sure that child was placed with the parent who is going to foster their love for both parents, not just one. They wanted to make sure that that child was going to be taken care of mentally, physically, psychologically, and emotionally. And if they made a mistake and put him with the alienator, they knew it was game over. So they took their time and they learned these things. And for them, I tip my hat off to them. Now, that being said, you've got some other judges out there that are just jackasses who have no business even being on the family court bench, let alone having a law license. Now, that being said, I have to admit that there are some judges, in my opinion, that are, well, not any fault of their own. They're actually just overburdened with the caseloads that they have. Some of these districts, they just don't have enough judges, and they've got far too many cases for the judges they do have. So it becomes an assembly line for these guys. What they do is that they'll get this family court case in, they'll get on their table, and they know they've got 5 more they've got to hear that day. So they don't have time to actually listen to testimony. They don't have time to review the evidence. They don't have time to give it proper thought and diagnosis of what it needs to. Instead, it turns into an assembly line. Here's this one. Case comes in, they rubber stamp it, goes out the door so they can get the next case going. They do it for the sake of expediency. And it's their fault, but it's not, if you can kind of understand where I'm coming from on. But for them, they've at least got an excuse for why they rubber stamp some of their cases. And the bad part is when they do that, it's a crapshoot because when they don't have time to evaluate the evidence or listen to the testimony or any of that other stuff, maybe the alienator gets kid, maybe the good parent gets the kid. Who knows? Anyway, that being said, as I mentioned, you've got some judges that just don't have any business being on the bench. And I'm going to take you back to maybe 15 or 16 years back on a story that I'd like to share with you. I was living in Denver at the time, and I just fired an attorney. And, he did such a bad job. He was a Craigslist attorney, so don't ever get one of them guys. Trust me, they're not any good. Anyway, my new attorney, he's great. His name is Jeff. And I got to talking to him about that judge that I had in my case. And I said, Jeff, what is going on with this judge? Why is he ruling the way he is? I mean, it's a type of a deal. I had this case won hands down. There's no way in hell that I should have lost. I mean, I had everything that should have given the children back to me and actually taken away the parental rights from the other parent. But they ruled against me. And Jeff, I remember he told me, he says, Dave, he says, here's the honest truth about that. He says, a bad judge is nothing more than a byproduct of a bad attorney. What do you mean, Jeff? He says, well, picture this. He says, you have an attorney, kind of like your last one that you got off Craigslist. Okay, they come in front of the same judges week after week after week. All right. They're doing such of a poor job. They barely pass their bar exam in the first place, but they're doing such of a bad job for their clients. They're losing left and right. And these judges that are on the bench, well, they get tired of looking at them. Well, what they do is they get in a huddle. They try to figure out a way that they can get this judge out of their, this attorney rather, out of their dockets. And so, like I say, they go into the huddle and they go, gee, I got to figure out a way to do this. So they go, well, I got an idea. Let's go ahead and nominate him to be a judge himself. That way there, you don't have to see him in front of your courtroom again. Hey, great idea. They go in front, they get nominated, problem solved. Well, there you go. Now you've got a bad attorney who now is a bad judge. Well, there's nothing we can do on that. Now, the next thing you've got to do, you look at with these bad judges, is the bad ones. Well, some of them are just flat out lazy. They don't want to take the time to listen to testimony. They don't want to take time to review the evidence in front of them. They certainly didn't take time to learn about parental alienation or best interest standards. What they've done when they get something in front of them in the courts, they go ahead and they go, well, you know what? I'm going to just rubber stamp it. I need to get rid of this case so I can go back to what I was doing before. And chances are what they were doing before is they had their Nintendo Switch hidden out in their lap behind the desk so nobody could see it, where they just glance up every now and then and nod, making people think they're paying attention when they're really not. They're too busy trying to see if they can win that damn game. So they rubber stamp it. They forget that the best interest standards is to be used for more than just filler words on a blank custody order. Those are bad judges. Now, that being said, you've also got some judges who are biased and openly biased because, let's face it, this is actually true, and it's been written about multiple times. You've got some judges, when you walk in there, they may not like the color of your hair. They may not like the fact that you're wearing pointy shoes. They may not like the sound of your voice or the color of your skin or whatever. They're biased against you. And so they're going to rule against anyone who they don't like, simply based upon those things instead of evidence and, a testimony. Those are the kind of judges we don't need on the bench because they're affecting not just the targeted parent, they are also affecting our children. Now, that being said, you've also got judges who are not openly biased, but well, they're biased by accident, for lack of a better way to explain it, because picture this. I want you to think about this. You've got a judge, all right? They're late for work. They're running out the door, and they're going to get in their vehicle. They put their hand on the doorknob, right? All of a sudden, the neighbor's dog from over here runs right up, pees directly onto their leg, and the judge looks over. Guess what? It's a man. The man owns the dog. So judge has to run back in, already late, has to change pants again, and then go to the court. Now he's even more late, like I say. Guess what? Every man that comes into his courtroom, he now has a bias against. So he's going to rule against him that day. And don't get me wrong, the same thing can happen. If it was a woman that owned the dog that peed on their leg, be ruling against the women as well. So at any rate, you do have biases, whether it's on purpose, whether it's an underlying, whether it's by accident, or whatever. You do have biases, but the main thing is that we need to go ahead and get those judges out. Now, myself, I've always advocated that I would love to see our family courts run just like a criminal court, because in family courts, they're so weird. I mean, because we have a saying in family courts that he who lies first is often believed. Well, judges take that literally, and it happens all the time. But in criminal courts, you lie, guess what? You're hit. There is a consequences. It's called perjury, people, and they're going to find out about that, and it's going to go against them. Then again, with evidence, guess what? Again, there's a consequence. You try to introduce evidence, you better be able to factually back it up, otherwise, it's inadmissible. But then the last thing is, I'd love to see it where if a parent thought they weren't going to get a fair ruling with a judge where there could be bias or stupidity or whatever, I'd love to see, it set up in such of a manner as that they could request to have their case heard in front of a jury. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying a 12-man jury. That's ludicrous to even think that, because that's not going to happen. But it is possible for a 3 or 4 person jury to be deciding these custody cases. And so by doing that, you have a pool of people, not just one. You have a pool of people, and they can't all be biased, let's face it. And they're all going to be checking each other on that. They have a chance to listen to the testimony. They have a chance to review the evidence. And let's face it, they have no stake in the game, so they're going to rule upon what's in front of them. That's how family courts should be ran, just like that. Will I ever see it in my lifetime? Yeah, maybe yes, maybe no. It's hard to say, but it's a pipe dream that I'm going to hold on to. In the meantime, I've made this long enough, and I'm going to go ahead and end this for now. But this at least gives you food for thought for now. And until the next time, I hope you guys have a great rest of the day. Bye. Hey everyone, David Shubert. Thanks for watching today's video. Now, if it connected with you, I invite you to go down below and click on the like button, subscribe, and even comment. It really helps my channel grow. And by the way, if you like this one, be sure to check out some of the other videos I have available. Until the next time, thank you for joining me on this journey. Take care.